$62,000 a month, one fence contractor, no fancy office, just a crew and a truck. That is the gap between a guy with a hammer and a business owner with a system. Today, we are breaking down 7 blue-collar businesses hitting at least $50,000 in monthly revenue. No abstract advice, no motivational fluff, just raw numbers, equipment costs, and profit margins. We will map out exactly how a $5,000 startup investment turns into a $60,000 monthly engine. If you want to know where the money actually hides in the dirt and the grease, stay tuned. $84,000 per month. That is the top end for a specialized pressure washing operation. Compare that to a solo operator charging $150 for a driveway. The solo guy makes $1,200 a week. The business owner makes $21,000 a week. The difference is not the water pressure, it is the service menu. A basic house wash is a commodity. Commercial parking lot degreasing and roof soft washing are high-ticket assets. Let's look at the math. A commercial contract for a shopping center can run $3,000 for a single weekend of work. With 3 crews running simultaneously, you hit $9,000 per weekend. That is $36,000 a month just from commercial accounts. Add in 40 residential soft wash jobs at $600 each, and you are at $24,000 total revenue hits $60,000. Now look at the costs. A professional skid-mounted pressure system costs $12,000. A used truck is $15,000. Chemicals and fuel eat about 15% of the top line. Labor for 3 technicians is roughly $12,000 a month. The operator's margin is thin because they do the scrubbing. The owner's margin is thick because they do the selling. When you move from the guy with the wand to the guy with the contracts, your hourly rate jumps from $40 to $400. But how do you get those commercial contracts without spending 10 years in the industry? You stop selling cleaning and start selling liability reduction. A clean parking lot prevents slip and fall lawsuits. That is a value proposition a property manager will pay $5,000 for. The payback period for the initial $27,000 investment is often less than 90 days if the lead flow is dialed in. But the real question is, how do you scale without the quality dropping? That leads us to the business where the equipment is more expensive, but the margins are even higher, $110,000 a month. That is the revenue for a high-end landscaping and hardscaping firm. Compare a mow and blow guy to a hardscape specialist. The mower makes $60 per yard. The hardscape specialist makes $15,000 per patio. One is a commodity, the other is a luxury renovation. A typical retaining wall and patio project costs the homeowner $25,000. The materials cost $8,000. Labor for a crew of 4 over 2 weeks is $6,000. That leaves a gross profit of $11,000 per project. To hit $110,000 in monthly revenue, you only need 4 of these projects running at once. The startup cost is the hurdle here. You need a skid steer, a dump truck, and a trailer. A used Bobcat and a heavy-duty truck will run you $45,000 to $70,000. This is where most people quit. They see the $60,000 entry price and go back to mowing lawns, but the math proves the investment. If one project nets $11,000, you pay off your entire equipment fleet in 6 projects. That is roughly 3 months of work. The shift here is moving from maintenance to installation. Maintenance is steady but slow. Installation is volatile but explosive. The operator owner spends 20% of their time on the job site and 80% on design and estimating. When you sell a 3D rendering of a backyard oasis, you can charge a 40% premium over the guy who draws a sketch on a napkin. But high-ticket installations come with high-ticket risks. One bad pour of concrete can wipe out a month's profit. How do you mitigate that risk while scaling to $100? You move into a business with a faster turnover and lower material risk, like junk removal. $55,000 a month. That is the revenue for a 2-truck junk removal operation. Compare the guy with a pickup truck to the branded franchise model. The pickup guy charges $50 for a load. The branded company charges $350 for a full truckload. The difference is the perceived value of professionalism and speed. Let's break down the revenue stream. A single truck can handle 6 pickups a day. At an average of $300 per pickup, that is $1,800 per day. With 2 trucks running 5 days a week, you hit $18,000 a week. That is $72,000 a month. Now, let's subtract the overhead. Dump fees are the biggest killer. Depending on the landfill, you might pay $100 per ton. If each truck hauls 2 tons a day, that is $400 per truck. Over 20 days, that is $16,000 in dump fees. Labor for 2 drivers and 4 helpers costs roughly $14,000. Insurance and fuel add another $4,000. Your net profit lands around $38,000. The startup cost is relatively low. A used dump truck and a branded wrap cost about $20,000. The payback period is incredibly short. If you are netting $38,000 a month, you recover your entire startup cost in less than 3 weeks of full operation. The secret here is the curbside convenience factor. People aren't paying you to move trash. They are paying you to make a problem disappear instantly. The revenue isn't in the hauling, it's in the logistics. The companies making $50 plus aren't just driving trucks. They are optimizing routes using software to minimize fuel and maximize stops. But what happens when you want a business with an even higher barrier to entry, which means less competition and higher prices? You look at specialized fencing, $62,000 a month. That is the revenue for a fence contractor focusing on commercial security and high-end residential vinyl. Compare a chain link fence installer to a luxury vinyl contractor. The chain link guy competes on price. The luxury contractor competes on aesthetics and durability. A high-end residential fence project for a half-acre property can easily run $12,000. The materials cost $4,000. Labor for a 3-man crew over 4 days is $2,500. The profit per job is $5,500. To hit $62,000 in monthly revenue, you only need 5 jobs a month. The equipment needs are modest: a truck, a few power augers, and a trailer. Total startup cost is around $15,000. However, the hidden cost is the skill gap. Installing a fence that stays perfectly level on a slope requires technical precision. This is why you can charge $80 per linear foot instead of $30. The operator-owner margin here is massive because the work is predictable. Once the quote is signed and the deposit is paid, the risk is minimal. The real money is made in the upsell. Adding a motorized gate system can add $3,000 to the ticket with only 2 hours of extra labor. The challenge is the seasonality. In the winter, revenue can drop to 0 in some climates. The $50 plus earners solve this by diversifying into indoor commercial partitioning or winterproof security fencing for industrial sites. But if you want a business that generates cash 365 days a year, regardless of the weather, you have to move into the food sector, $95,000 a month. That is the revenue for a single high-traffic gourmet food truck. Compare a taco truck to a specialized concept truck like Loaded Fries or Smash Burgers. The taco truck sells a $3 item. The concept truck sells a $16 combo. Let's look at the volume. A successful truck does 100 tickets a day. At an average ticket of $18, that is $1,800 per day. Operating 25 days a month, that is $45,000. But the high earners don't just park on a street corner. They do corporate catering and private events. A single corporate lunch event can bring in $2,500 for 4 hours of work. If you book 4 of these a month, you add $10,000. If you had a weekend festival with high foot traffic, you can pull $10,000 in a single weekend. This is how one truck hits $90,000 to $100,000 in monthly revenue. The costs are higher here. Food costs usually sit at 30%. For $95,000 in revenue, that is $28,500 gone. Labor for 3 staff members is $9,000 gas, propane, and permits take another $3,000. Your net profit is roughly $54,500 before the loan payment on the truck. The startup cost is the steepest. A fully equipped modern food truck costs $60,000 to $120,000. However, the payback period is faster than almost any other blue-collar business if the location is right. If you are netting $50,000 a month, a $100,000 truck is paid off in 2 months. The risk is the menu bloat. The guys making $50 plus have tiny menus. They do 3 things perfectly. They don't offer 20 different items. They optimize for speed of service. If a customer waits 15 minutes for fries, the revenue drops. If they wait 3 minutes, the line stays long and the cash keeps flowing. But what if you don't want to deal with food health inspections and spoilage? You go back to the exterior of the home with a different angle. HVAC and duct cleaning, $78,000 a month. That is the revenue for a residential air duct cleaning and dryer vent service. Compare a full HVAC installation company to a specialized air quality service. The HVAC company has massive overhead, expensive licenses, and huge equipment costs. The duct cleaning service has low overhead and high margins. A standard duct cleaning package for a 3-bedroom home is $600 to $900. The equipment, a high-powered vacuum system and brushes, costs about $10,000. The labor is 2 people. If they complete 3 homes a day, that is $2,100 per day. Over 22 working days, that is $46,200. To push this to $78,000, the business owner adds add-on services. While in the house, they find a clogged dryer vent. They charge $150 to clear it. They find a moldy coil. They charge $300 to sanitize it. These add-ons have almost zero material cost. They are pure profit. The cost breakdown: equipment financing is $500 more. Labor for a technician is $4,000 more. Marketing, specifically Google Local Services ads, is $2,000 more. The net profit often exceeds 60% because there are no materials like lumber or concrete to buy. You are selling air and labor. The barrier to entry is low, which means competition is high. The $50 plus earners win by dominating the trust factor. They use branded uniforms, provide digital before and after photos to the client, and use automated review requests. They aren't selling clean vents. They are selling healthier air for your children. But there is one more business that combines the high ticket of hardscaping with the recurring nature of landscaping. We are talking about professional epoxy flooring and concrete polishing, $120,000 a month. That is the revenue for a specialized epoxy garage and commercial floor company. Compare a house painter to an epoxy specialist. The painter charges by the hour, the epoxy specialist charges by the square foot, and the price is significantly higher. A standard 2-car garage epoxy job costs the homeowner $2,500 to $4,000. The materials cost $600. The labor for 2 people over 2 days is $800. The profit per garage is roughly $1,100 to $2,600. The real money, however, is in commercial warehouses. A 10,000 square foot warehouse floor can be a $30,000 project. 2 of these a month, plus 10 residential garages, and you are clearing $100,000 in revenue. The startup cost is moderate. A high-grade industrial grinder and vacuum system will cost $15,000 to $25,000. You need a reliable van and basic safety gear. Total entry cost, $30,000. The margin is incredible because the perceived value is high. A polished concrete floor looks like $1 million. People associate it with luxury and cleanliness. This allows the business owner to price based on value, not labor hours. The operational secret is the prep. The guys who fail try to save time on the grinding process. The guys making $120 a month spend 70% of their time on surface preparation. They know that the profit is in the longevity. If the floor peels in 2 years, the reputation is dead. If it lasts 20 years, the referrals create a self-sustaining lead machine. Now, let's look at the common thread across all 7 of these businesses. Whether it is $55,000 from junk removal or $120,000 from epoxy floors, the pattern is identical. First, they moved from generalist to specialist. The general landscaper struggles. The hardscape specialist thrives. The general cleaner struggles. The commercial pressure washing specialist thrives. When you specialize, you stop competing on price. You start competing on expertise. Second, they focused on the payback period. In every one of these examples, the initial equipment investment, even the expensive food truck or the Bobcat, was recovered in less than 6 months. If the math doesn't show rapid payback, the business isn't scalable. Third, they shifted from operator to owner. The operator is the one holding the pressure wander driving the truck. Their income is capped by their hours. The owner is the one managing the lead flow, optimizing the routes, and closing the high-ticket contracts. The owner's margin is higher because they are selling the system, not their time. Look at the revenue gap again. $60 per yard versus $15,000 per patio. $50 per load of junk versus $350 per truck. The difference is not hard work. We are talking about blue-collar work. Everyone is working hard. The difference is the value lever. If you are currently in a blue-collar trade, ask yourself, where is my value lever? Are you charging for your time or are you charging for a result? If you charge by the hour, you have a job. If you charge by the project result, you have a business. For the pressure washer, the result isn't clean concrete. The result is increased property value and reduced liability. For the junk remover, the result isn't moving trash. The result is instant space and mental clarity. For the epoxy specialist, the result isn't painted floors. The result is industrial-grade durability and aesthetic luxury. When you change the words you use to describe your service, you change the amount of money people are willing to pay you. This is how you move from $5,000 a month to $50,000 a month without necessarily working more hours. You just change what you are selling. Now consider the risk. Every one of these businesses has a failure point. For the food truck, it is the location. For the hardscape company, it is the quality of the pour. For the junk removal service, it is the dump fee. The successful entrepreneurs in these niches don't ignore these risks. They build systems to neutralize them. The food truck owner doesn't just hope people show up. They build a social media following that follows the truck. The hardscape owner doesn't just hope the wall stays up. They use engineered blueprints and reinforced footings. The junk removal owner doesn't just drive to the dump. They negotiate bulk rates with landfill operators to lower their COGS. The transition from a guy with a truck to a CEO of a blue-collar company happens the moment you stop focusing on the tool and start focusing on the numbers. The tool is just the means of production. The numbers, the revenue, the margins, the payback period are the actual business. If you are starting from zero, the path is clear. Pick a niche with a high-value lever. Invest in the minimum viable equipment to produce a professional result. Focus entirely on lead generation and high-ticket quoting. Once you hit the $10 a month mark, reinvest every penny into better equipment and a first employee. This is the scale phase. The scale phase is where